What's up, Rams? I'm Kenneth Frederick here with CTV, and we're here to give you all of the information we have on the upcoming election.
And I'm Ren Wadsworth. To start things off, we're going to talk a little bit about our personal experience with the elections. Now, I don't know about you, Kenny, but this is personally my first time being able to vote in a presidential election.
Yeah, this is actually my very first time, too. I was a couple weeks off of the midterms back in 2018, but this is my first presidential election.
Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of students here at CSU. It is their first chance being able to vote in a presidential election, and I think that's why it's so important to so many students to research and to actually get out to the polls this year.
Did you vote early, or are you going next Tuesday to vote in person?
Yeah, I personally already dropped off my ballot. It was a little bit scary because I recently moved, so I wasn't sure when I was going to get my ballot, and it didn't come till pretty late, but I got it in time. How about yourself?
My ballot was shipped to me back in Boulder County where I grew up, and I just went down, I voted, and then I turned in my ballot early.
Nice. Well, talking a little bit about how campus is looking with the elections, there's a lot of people around campus who are encouraging you to make sure that you're registered, encouraging you to go out and vote, and even offering to lead you to the voting spot. Have you seen them out on campus?
I have seen a lot of different people out and about on campus, and I have seen a lot of the booths, right out in front of Clark that, have been just asking passersby if they had voted already, and, a lot of times they'll either give you the information or a lot of people will say they've already voted and they all just cheer.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for students that it's a no-stress environment where you can just sign up on the spot or you can double-check. Like, I know I double-checked that I was registered to vote this year because I had moved addresses and I was kind of a little wary that I was going to be able to vote this year. So I think it's a great resource for students to be able to have on campus.
Yeah, I know I definitely Googled voter registration, if my registration still counted, and it did. And I think Google is, a really great tool for just about anybody who's going out to vote this year.
Yeah, Colorado is actually a really good state because everyone who is registered right now, if I'm correct, gets a automatic mail-in ballot. Other states, you have to request a mail-in ballot, and you have to request it early if you're going to be able to vote. Like, if you requested a mail-in ballot now, it'd be kind of unrealistic to expect it to get in over the weekend before the polls close and get it sent in before the polls close, too.
Yeah, mail-in registration may have closed this week, but you are still able to register in person in order to vote at the polls on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think all you need, too, is your driver's license. But moving a little bit on to how the stats look in the state, how are they looking, Kenny?
Colorado used to be a swing state. We used to really kind of go back and forth between the Republican and the Democratic Party, and that's kind of reflected in our senators at the moment. We have one Democratic senator, and we have Cory Gardner, who's our Republican senator. But, in the past couple of elections, we've definitely been more of a blue-leaning state.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was reading that one of the major reasons that we're swinging from a purple state or a swing state into a blue state is because of a lot of people moving into Colorado. And because of that immigration, a lot of the people are ending up turning or voting blue. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, the Senate debate, because right now the odds are really in Hickenlooper's favor. So that's going to have a big impact on a lot of elections in years to come if he does secure that seat.
It's really quite an important race to watch as well because the Republicans only have 53 seats in the Senate right now. Democrats are hoping to take back the majority as well as the White House with Vice President Biden running.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely think this is a really important election to pay attention to. And I think that's really reflective in a lot of those state stats. A lot of people are voting faster and earlier than they did last year. There's a stat that this time last year we had about half of the mail-in ballots or half of the ballots filled out that we do this year. So it's incredible just the amount of people who are getting to the polls early and they're voting early because they know this is such an important election. And everything that I read and I listened to this past night was saying, like, get out and vote. This is so important. You need to vote. You need to pay attention this year. So it's interesting to see that it's such an important election, like you said, Kenny. Something I wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth was those mail-in votes and a little bit of people's hesitation with those. A lot of people were a little wary of mail-in votes, but something interesting I found is that mail-in votes have actually been around since the Civil War. So it's not a new concept for people to be mailing in their votes, but it is something that's causing a lot of people a little bit of anxiety as they decide what they're going to vote for this year.
A lot of that anxiety kind of comes from more of the discourse on like a national level. It's become a very highly politicized issue. You have Trump and the Republicans in one corner saying, mail-in voting really isn't that secure and there are a lot of problems with it. And then you have Democrats who are citing their statistics and whatnot, saying that mail-in voting is a viable option. And especially with the pandemic going on, a lot of people, I would say, as many people as there are hesitant about mail-in voting, there are a lot of people hesitant out there about going into the polls. Because if you've seen other elections, even though we weren't able to vote in the past election, presidential election, there are a lot of people that show up to the polling centers.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, again, I've never experienced it because I wasn't able to vote at the time, but it's almost like a spectacle. Like, you get dressed up, you get ready to vote, you get your sticker, you take pictures, and a lot of people are missing out on that experience this year. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily. I personally really enjoyed being able to sit at home, being able to look at my phone and kind of research the propositions that we were voting on, and as well as the presidential candidates' platforms, and then being able to just drop it off when I had the time. But I don't know, it's interesting. Again, like, it's just a different kind of year and a different kind of election altogether.
Yeah, it's a crazy time to be alive, and I think it's a transformative year for politics for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Moving into the meat and potatoes of this election, we wanted to talk about the presidential and vice presidential styles in the debate themselves. I know personally what a lot of people have said they are used to in presidential candidates is a good speaker, a well-spoken person. And personally, I don't see that in either of the candidates this year, which is, again, really interesting. They're just different candidates than America has seen in the past.
I think a lot of that is to do with the highly politicized times polarized times we're in. It was definitely interesting to see news coverage and get people's reactions on how they saw the debates. I covered the first presidential debate and I covered the vice presidential debate. And I went out and talked with, people on campus, and a lot of people were just genuinely upset that none of the policies were being discussed in it. It was definitely a election more on the personalities of the candidates. And I think we saw a lot of that in 2016 as well. The discourse between Hillary and Trump is kind of similar to what we see between Biden and Trump.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think part of it, too, is it's not just polarized, it's also sensationalized. Like, what makes the news isn't Biden had this platform on fracking. It's Trump said this, or, the fly on Mike Pence's forehead. It's all sensationalized, which, again, leads back to just having a different election this year and having a different year in general.
One thing about this, especially in Colorado, I know we have Proposition 113, which we've also covered here at CSU, which would transfer us over from the Electoral College to more of a national popular voting system.
Yeah. And that's probably coming from a lot of people's complaints about the Electoral College. But, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to talk about the presidential debate, I think we're going to have more opportunities coming on Tuesday to talk about them, and even on Thursday on your show.
Absolutely. Stick around, Rams. We'll be back with more election coverage as we get it.
Hello, I'm Claire Stevens with Texas News Channel at UT Austin. Today, we're taking a look ahead at what's happening with the upcoming election here in Texas. Texas is a traditionally Republican state, but that may be starting to change. As Election Day grows near, polls show a close presidential race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Most polls continue to have Trump a few points ahead, but some have also shown a tie or even a small Biden lead. If Biden does take Texas, it would be a huge upset. The state's 38 electoral votes have gone to the Republican presidential candidate in every election since 1980. No matter which way it goes, a presidential race this close is unusual for Texas, which Trump won by 9 points back in 2016. Texas is also seeing an intense race for U.S. Senator. Republican incumbent John Cornyn has held the seat for 18 years and won his previous re-election race by 27 points. This year, he faces Democratic challenger Mary M.J. Hagar. Since the summer, Hagar has surpassed Cornyn in fundraising, attracting contributions from several national Democratic PACs. Cornyn has maintained a consistent single-digit lead in the polls. Texas also has 36 House races, several of which are likely to be close. Another big story here in Texas is voter turnout. Texas Governor Greg Abbott extended early voting by 6 days this year amid concerns about coronavirus and crowded polling sites. Texans seem to be taking advantage of it, surpassing early voting totals from 2016 with several days of early voting remaining. Texas also has 1.8 million more registered voters than it did in 2016. This has been your look ahead at the 2020 election here in Texas. I'm Claire Stevens, Texas News Channel.